Hello everybody, so let's keep going. So the next step right now will be creating an iconography library for our project. And we are gonna reuse pretty much a lot of those concepts that we already use it to create components here, because we are gonna use nested components a lot, and we are gonna organize also them into sections. So this is my personal way to organize icons. There's many different ways that people organize, but my recommendation will be building something that is gonna be really safe to work in the future. Okay, so the first step, let's click here to create a new page, and I like to use here maybe a icon here, or sorry, it's gonna be the info. Okay, so you can click info and type iconography and press enter. Okay, so having that, here on the video you're gonna be able to find a file that I shared here. 1 second. Icons. So you're gonna be able to find this zip file containing a lot of different icons for you. Okay, and what we're gonna do, pretty much you're gonna unzip. You're gonna select all of them. You can use Command A if you're using Mac, and this will select all the icons that you have. And it's very simple because you can just drag the icons into your Figma, and this will import automatically all the icons that I shared with you. Okay, so if you have any issue, you can use also the file place image or video here, that is Shift Command K. This will open the Mac window that you can go and select the file, folders, whatever you need from the Finder, but I just usually just grab and place inside Figma because it's pretty easy and fast to do that. Okay, so once you have those icons here, right now they are not components yet, right? They are only frames, and we can see here because the symbol here is just a frame. Remember that, just to recap, if you have components, if you have this one that is like your main component, you have like the 4 diamonds fillet. If you have an instance, it's gonna be an outline diamond like that. Okay, and in this case it's just like a hashtag, which means is a frame, and this information is not reusable right now. Okay, to make this as a component, we can just select all of them, and that's why I mentioned before that if you are a little bit lazy and you don't select correctly here because you have so many different layers, maybe this can cause some issues for you in the future. Okay, so let's be very organized, select all of them, and you can see that this icon library that I just brought to you, they are 24 already by default. This is a very good size to design icons for UI, because this will be easy to resize for a smaller size or like bigger size, and 24 is a kind of like a standard to use that. If the icons, they are not visible on that size, or if you're using too much elements inside the icon, right? Because if you may need you have a lot of space. Once you resize down, maybe it's gonna cause some issues, okay? So once you select all of them, be careful now, okay? Because if you click here, you're gonna create a big component, one single big component with all those icons inside. And we don't wanna do that. We wanna click on the drop down and we wanna create a multiple components. We don't wanna create the component set. We are gonna create that later on, but we are gonna create multiple components. So let's click here, and now you notice that all these ones, they used to be frames, and now they are all 4 diamonds fillet, which means they are all components for us. And if you go into the assets, that's another thing that we are going to notice now, because we created components before and we have the sections, but now because we have a different page, Figma organized already into pages, right? It's the same thing that we have components or iconography. They created automatically the folder for us, which is fine, but it's not the best way to organize everything, okay? So let's go on the sandbox now, because I want to test those icons that we have right now, okay? So if you have all those icons here, we can just click here to create a new frame, and you can select desktop for now, it's fine. And if you have the desktop size, let me just change a little bit the color, like this. Okay, and you could drag icons here. Okay, you can drag whatever icon you like. You just bring them here and the music one. Okay, so now we have a problem with those icons right now, because what is the main idea behind building a design system? To keep consistency across our project, across multiple screens. And building icons on this way will create a lot of problems. I worked in different projects and people start resizing icons in the way that they prefer, or maybe this is not fitting well, right? Like, because that's the thing. Icons, they have different shapes, and sometimes they have like a safe area, right? If you zoom in here, you see there's 1 pixel here, 1 pixel down, on up and down. But maybe for other icons like this one, you don't have. So sometimes people just feel that this is wrong, whatever. But the designer, pretty much, they created the icons like that to keep a balance. Okay, so people do this usually. They drag and they resize, right? Maybe they will press shift to maintain the size, the proportion, but sometimes they will just resize randomly, a little bit like this, and this will cause a lot of inconsistency on your project. And this is something that we don't want to do, okay? So in order to make sure that this is not going to happen, we're going to create a system for us to organize those icons into specific sizes. But before doing that, let's organize a couple of things right here, okay? And what exactly we are going to do? First, we are going to click here, and we're going to open a section, and we're going to drag the section like this. And once you drag the section, you can see that all the components, they are automatically inside the section, okay? So if you create it outside, you can just drag inside the icons, but make sure that the icons, they are really inside the section, okay? So how you can see, because you have like a visual hierarchy here, but also if you close the folder, you can see that all those components they are leaving inside the section 1. Okay, but we don't want to leave this as section 1, and I want to rename as library. Okay, because now that this is already under the iconography folder, if I open up here the library, you have the iconography page, and you have under that a folder, right? Because we are using sections, that all the icons, they will live inside here, okay? But we don't want to use that for now, okay? We are gonna just make sure that they are organized pretty well here in our library. Okay, there's another thing that is going to be important, and this is kind of annoying sometimes, because in the future we may need to change colors, and depending on how people created the icon, let's say maybe this one, let me check it out. This is already one single vector. This one is a couple of vectors together, you see? So once we need to change colors, Figma sometimes they don't understand, and maybe they're gonna take like the first layer here, and if I change the color, they're gonna change only the color for the first layer, because they have all these multiple layers with the same name. Okay, so to do that, the best way to organize that is combining them, selecting this and making sure that you can flatten the selection. You can do union, but I just flat everything just to make sure that is only one single vector. And you're gonna see that you will have like this vector here or vector here, and it's pretty good, okay? And you have a lot of them. So one shortcut to do that, it's selecting everything, and this will be super helpful, this shortcut. So remember, save that shortcut, because you can press enter and just check what's gonna happen if I press enter. If I press enter, you selected all the childs, right? If you see here on the left panel. If I press shift enter, they're gonna go back to the parent layer. So enter, and now I'm selecting the childs right here. But if you do a flatten selection altogether, it's gonna create a bug, because Figma will take everything together and flat in one single layer. But this is not what we want to do, but at least we can now visualize the layers, and we can just go here and flatten. So Command E is the shortcut for this, and I can just select. You have to do manually, okay? I know that is a pain, but once you do that, oops, sorry, I did wrong, I selected wrong. You can just select here, Command E, right? And just keep going, select everything. So make sure that you just select what is under the component, right? Like this hamburger menu. And I'm just selecting that and pressing Command E. You will understand later, once you start touching in colors, that this small change will make a huge difference for us, okay? And just make sure that everything will be like that, okay? I think I finished here. No, I still have this one pending, and I think, okay, we have some of them here lost. Another one here. Oops, let me select. This and this. Select those ones, and let me see. Okay, I don't have any other. I think all of them, they are only one single layer, okay? And maybe you're gonna ask me now, but you know, why this name is vector? Is by default for Figma is vector. Figma rename as vector a lot of icons, so that's why I keep like that. Okay, it's just easier for the future, because if you need to make some changes, you're gonna see that this will work pretty well. Okay, so there's one detail that you're gonna notice now, that if you go in each one of the icons now, if I press enter, right, let's say that I'm selecting this eye or this file, it doesn't matter, everyone should be using the constraint scale, okay, because if we need to scale later on, we're going to make sure that they scale correctly. So I can just verify selecting all of them, and if I press enter, you see that everything is scale. If you're not, if it's mixed, you can just select scale. Okay, good. So in fact here visually nothing happened. Okay, everything is like look the same for you, which is fine, because it's just part of the process now. Okay, now we're going to start like building some sizes for our icons, and of course by default we're gonna use the 24 as a default size here for us right now, and to use one of those icons childs, we can just duplicate if you want, but if you want to make everything super safe, the way that I prefer, you can just come to the assets, you can open your library here, and you can select whatever icons that you like. I will select the home, okay, and I will drag here, okay. So once you select that one, I can close the library here, and I have this one. We need to create a frame that is gonna hold this icon, but you can just come here, click on frame, and drag and create like a frame. But the other way around is just right click and you can just frame the selection, and this will create a frame around holding the icon that we just brought from our asset panel. Okay, cool. So this for us is gonna be our first structure, okay, for the icon. So 24, if you want to lock here the constraints, it's fine. It's not gonna change much for us right now, because if you change manually, it's gonna still not use that constraint, but we can just keep like that just to remind us for that. Okay, so once you do that, you can go here under and you have the icon here, right, the home that we selected, but I want to rename the layer here. And remember that childs we can rename for whatever name that we want, and this is not gonna change the home name, right? It's gonna still keep using the home name. Okay, all right, I had an issue here because I have to have like the most expensive account. It's okay. Okay, so once you have that and you already selected your frame, let's rename this layer. It's gonna be called glyph, like that, GLYPH. Okay, this is gonna be our symbol for the frame. Okay, so once you have this one, make sure that you check the constraints, right? Because on this case, the constraints, I don't want to keep left and top. I want to make sure that is center and center. So you can select here, just right in the middle of the constraints, or you can just select on the drop down also, which is the same. It's fine. Whatever you feel that is going to work. But from now, make sure that you check the correct layer that you're selecting before changing properties. Because if you change properties here wrong, you're gonna create like some conflicts, and those conflicts will cause some issues in the future. So this glyph, that is my icon pretty much, it's center, and it's under this frame. So this frame I can just rename as 24 because this is the size of this one, right? Okay, so now you need to copy. You can just Command C, Command V, right? And this is gonna create another one here. Or if you prefer, you can just drag like that, holding Shift and Option, and this is gonna be doing the same thing. Okay, but for now, we're gonna create another icon right here, and 24 is also multiple of 8. So there's another lesson only about 8-point grid system, but the idea is to follow like 8-point grid system or 4-point grid system because it will be easier to resize in the future. Okay, so this one we're gonna add 8 points on top of that, right? This one. Okay, so how much is 24 plus 8? 24 plus 8, I don't know. That's why I'm a designer, and maybe you're trying to be a designer or you are already a designer because of that, because you're not very good on math, right? So what exactly we're gonna do? We're gonna just type here 24 plus 8, because developers, they know that you're not good on math and they created the calculator already inside Figma. Okay, so it's 32, and but the only problem right now is because this icon should be 32. Okay, so you can just lock here, just change 32, and this will be going to the center, right? So you can drag, or you can just use the tool here to make sure that you align this correctly. Okay, this 25 I will rename for 32, just to make sure that I have the size on the frame. Okay, so we're gonna do the same thing for other sizes. So if you come here and you duplicate this one here, let's duplicate, oops, let me duplicate, I'm holding the wrong key. We can do the same. So 24 less minus 8, right? It's going to be 16, but under the 16 here, so I want to rename this to 16. So this glyph, that is this size, they should be, right, using 16, which is like 24. So if you want to lock in here, it's fine. We're going to use 16, and I want to center and center using here the top alignments here. Okay, 2. So you have 16, we have 24, we have 32. Okay, and maybe we want to create more sizes. Depending on your project, you may need to create a lot of different sizes. Okay, so just prepare for that. So 32 plus 8, it's gonna be 40. So I can rename this one to be 40, and this icon here, so make sure that you select the glyph should be 40, and I want to center. Okay, so that's the good thing about locking, because you just need to change one and this is gonna resize the height automatically. So I think on this first one, the 24 is not locked. I just want to lock just to make sure that everything is organized. Okay, cool. All right, so we have 4 different sizes, which is great for us to start. Maybe in the future we may need to change that, but for now we're gonna keep like that. Okay, cool. Select all of them now, because now we're gonna jump in to another step, and this step, it's organizing those sizes into another component, but this time, instead of clicking here or only click on the drop down and multiple components, we are going to create a component set. And that's another thing, because make sure that you select all of them. I will do again, and you can click here and create a component set. So the component set is a very interesting component, because you have like the component, as you can see, the 4 diamonds, but under that you have a single diamond that is filled now. Okay, so it's a variation pretty much, or an instance of this component, right? So you have different instances. So right now the component one I want to rename for icon. Okay, so having that as icon, you see all those different sizes here, and you're gonna see a lot of new things on Figma. The first one is the property here. So properties, they're gonna be super useful for us, because if you need to change, you just need to come here, double click and rename. So the property one is gonna be size, but if you wanna rename the size here, right, you can just select and you can just click here and type. So let's say that I don't want to call this 40 but 4040 or 40 pixel, whatever. You can just type and press enter, but otherwise you can just leave like 40, or you can click on drop down rename. Also, that's another option. Another option is clicking here, right, and you can just add other properties. But one thing that I will never recommend you to do, so record that in your mind. Don't come here, especially on component sets, and try to rename double clicking, because you see the size here is the same name that we added here. So if you just change all these to 16, I will do that and I will fix. You're gonna create an invalid name. So because of the size, they don't have the prop, you know, the prop and value. So in this case, it's gonna create problems. So I need to retype here 16, so they will rename again to 16. Okay, so be careful on renaming things on the left panel for component sets. This is easy because it's only one property, but sometimes you will have a lot of different properties altogether, and this will cause some issues for you. So that being said, let's go to the sandbox now. And now that we go here and we have the library, but we are not going to use the library. Okay, we're going to use only the icon. We're going to drag the icon. So once you drag the icon, this is on the left, we have the old icons that you can resize, and this will stretch randomly. But now we have only one icon here, because this only one element will hold all the information that we need, right? So if you need to change sizes, you just select here, and this will change the icon size for whatever size that you need. But the biggest difference between the first icons and this icon is because if I need to resize, they're not gonna allow users to resize randomly the icons, okay? So you're gonna need to follow a specific, like a structure, and this will pretty much resize back the icon for you. So if you did a mistake like that or change it manually and you want to reset without changing the drop down, you can just come here on right click and you can reset all changes. Okay, so this is what I call insurance, because nobody will be able to change the size without your permission. Okay, cool. Now let's go back to our iconography here. And there's one detail, because right now, if you check back on the sandbox, I only can change the size, but I cannot change the icon. You will be able to change if you click here and select the glyph, because here will pop up like this drop down with all the icons inside the library. So you will be able to change. But we want to create a property that we can do that, okay? So now we are going to add another property here that we're gonna use that, okay? But in order to do that, let's fix one detail, because I deleted the 16 and now the 16 is the last one that I created. So you can just come here and you can just move to the top. So at least when they display, everything will be in a correct sequence, okay? So let me go to the 16 here, double click, and once you double click, you're selecting the child component, remember? The glyph is the one that we created in the beginning, but they are a child component from the icon library. Okay, so selecting the glyph on the 16, whatever you're gonna select, because we're gonna do that for all of them, but we're gonna start from the 16. So I will select the glyph and I will click here. You see here, create instance swap property, okay? We are gonna create like this property. And there's one thing that I don't understand from Figma that I really don't like, because they implemented that, I remember, and I was like building this same component system, and it was a little bit weird because it wasn't like connecting correctly things. But anyways, I figured it out later that these preferred values sometimes is not super useful, because they lock some values in the beginning, but depending on how you're gonna organize, maybe this is not gonna be helpful. In the future, in other components, I will show you how this will be more useful, okay? But for now, let's just remove the preferred values here, and I will remove the same icon, okay? Later on, you're gonna understand. And this name of this property, we can just use the glyph, right? Because, oops, glyph, oh my God, glyph, okay? And we created the property. Now you see that this created a property here. You can unlink if you need, right? Detach the property, but for now, it's all good. And we're gonna just open all of them here and make sure that you select the glyph here, right? And you just click here and link to the glyph, you see? And I will do that for the other ones also. So if I select here, all of them, they are selected to the glyph. So it's only 4. If you wanna select pressing enter, you're gonna see that all of them are linked to the glyph. So now our icons that we created, they have a new property here, that is the glyph, and this will show all the icons that we created. Okay, cool. And whatever size that you want to use, this will block users to make mistakes. Okay, and you have also the link for all the icons that we have in our library. So if you go to the assets, that's the very interesting thing, because you just have one icon. You don't need to allow people to see all this library, but only to see this icon. So that's one thing that annoys me a little bit, because if you have sections, things like that, actually you cannot hide that properly, right? If I just use a dot like to hide components, and I come here, actually people will technically they can still see my components on the asset panel, right? Because you have the dot, but it doesn't mean that it's hidden, because if it's hidden, it's gonna be living here. The only way to hide that pretty much is like adding on the front of the name of those components, but these create a few problems when you do nested instance. So I'm hoping that Figma will change that in some point, because I really want to make sure that nobody will touch here, right? I just want to make sure that people can just only touch on the icon component, but they cannot touch on the library for now. Okay? So there's like another couple of things that you could implement that should be extra. So for example, let's say here that you have this zoom, and you want to create a folder that we'll call controls backslash the name of the icon. So you can just use controls backslash. So this will help you later in the future if you want. Depending on the icon library, I will recommend you to do that, because you have all the icons here, but you're going to start creating some folders, you see? And you can just have those ones here. But if you need to navigate back, you just click here. And that's the problem, because you can navigate here, which makes a lot of confusing for people. But if you stick to the library, you'll be safe and good and off to go. Okay? And you're not going to have any problem. The other way that this could work is like creating maybe external files that people won't have access. But this is another topic that I will add that in the future for you guys. Okay? So one last thing before we finish that one is how we can add more icons into the library, right? So this is a very important thing to do. So all those icons, if you want to download later on, I brought them from remix icons. So if you go here to the plugins, you're gonna see the remix icon, this one. There's a website that is super useful. If you need to save, I will recommend you to click and save the plugin, and you can just run the plugin, and this will open this window with like all the icons, or you can search for whatever you need. And that being said, you can just for example, maybe a pen, right? Those pens are useful because you can just use on edit, right? To show that people are editing. So you can just click, or you can just drag. If you click, the problem sometimes is they place in random places, which is fine. You can just drag. And let me see. I think, okay, we can just add so many icons, right? Let me go back to the top. Okay, so we can use this scissor for now. Okay, so be careful, because sometimes this will happen. So I will Command Z quickly, because if you select that, they will place inside your icon. Okay, so the other frame. So I will just pretty much click here, and this will create the scissor icon for me. Okay, here, let me just move here. The other one that I added by mistake, I deleted. So let me just bring another one. Maybe the medal here. It's good. Okay, so we have that. Okay, so how we are gonna add them? to our library. It's going to be easy. First, you have to be careful because this is our library. So let me move my avatar here. So you have the library here, but the ones that we created, visually, they are inside the library, but if you see on the layers, they are outside. So it will be really important that you can drag them here to make sure that they are under the library, but also they are only frames, right? Like they are not a component. So we need to make sure that we select that and we turn that into a component, okay? It's only two you can do individually, or if you have more, you can select and create multiple components, not a component set, okay? So for organization's sake, you can just move around here just to make sure that everything is organized. I will just do this quickly here, just to make sure that everything is aligned correctly. Okay, so you can do the same right here. Okay, cool. So everything is looking good. So the scissor and the medal that we added, they are under the library and automatically they are connected to those icons here. So if I want to go back here and type the scissor, it's gonna find the scissor for me that we just added right there, right here. And the name of this one is medal line. So if you just want to go back here to your sandbox and click here or just type medal, you're going to be able to click and see your medal icon just right there. Cool. So now we have a pretty decent iconography system, and this will be super useful even for the tutorials because we are going to reuse a lot of them. We're going to keep adding more icons through the time. So make sure that you can build the library on your side, and feel free to drop any questions. I will be happy to answer. This is not a only single way to build like an iconography system, but this is the way that I prefer to do things because I've been doing like the same system using Sketch, using XD, and now like just bringing the same concept to Figma will be super useful for you. It's super useful for me for a lot of different projects. Okay, I hope you like it, and we see you on the next video. Okay, bye.